All right, so this is my buddy's other vehicle I've been working on for about 2 years now, on and off, just in my free time. I have a full-time job, so this is my secondary full-time job, one might say. I'm sure his wife probably thinks that, considering how much time I'm here. So this is a 99 Grand Cherokee. A lot of people think these are WJs. Technically, that's a different style, front suspension factory, different interior accessories. So this would be considered a Grand Cherokee, period. Some specs real quick before I get into things. It has 40-inch Nitto MTs. I am 6'3", so this thing is absolutely giant. Look at how tall this thing is. Originally, we started building this, or I got introduced into the build, I should say, when he wanted to put the 40s on. He already had Dana 60s under it. It has 2010 Dodge diffs. He's a big Dodge guy. Dodge is everywhere around here. Considering his race truck, he has a giant cabin chassis truck that's all done up. So it had Dana 60s. He wanted to put the 40s on it. It was on 35s at the time. It already had a 5.3 swap with a cam, 4L80 with like a NP 261, whatever, floor shift T-case type deal. It had coilovers on it, 14-inch in the front, 18-inch in the back, I believe. FOA. He bought those long before COVID came, so they were fairly cheap at the time. He had air bumps, all that kind of stuff, set up on a bolt-on style 3-link, 4-link kind of setup that worked subpar in his mind. Him being, if you're going to spend money on it, do it right the first time kind of guy, which I totally agree with. We started putting this on 40s. He wanted to stretch the front. I guess he seen a WJ online at some point that had full hydro. The front was stretched crazy, have that crazy approach angle kind of look, be able to clear these 40s. It being a unibody, he's already gone in there, restructured the entire unibody with plate. When I got introduced, I said, okay, let's build a true 4-link. Let's triangulate the back, try to get as much travel as you can out of these coilovers. So the back has a typical lean the coilover back. He already has like a half cage that comes to about here for the shocks to mount to. And then same with his sound truck. This thing has 4 12-inch subs, crazy speakers. The dude likes to listen to music, let's say. So I did a true 4-link dual triangulated rear suspension setup. Used his coilovers he had, built custom sway bars for it. He built a sway bar that style where you can put a Toyota hub on it and disconnect it so you don't actually have disconnects. I'll zoom up close on all these parts, but the hub on the front is right here. We made it so when he hops out, he can get to both hubs on one side. Super easy. Since stretching it, we stretched about 8 to 9 inches roughly forward on the front. The back, just to wrap that up, other than building a true dual triangulated setup, we built a cross member, all that kind of stuff. Got that all done, got it to where he wants it to sit. Then it slowly became, I want to make this the ultimate like adventuring vehicle kind of thing. Go out for a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever him and his wife want to do type thing, and not have to worry about anything. That's when things started getting a little crazy. I started stretching the front. Then he decided I want to put a turbo on it. I want to make about 700-800 horse. It being a 5.3, simple enough. So we threw a giant turbo on it. Custom intercooler because as anybody knows Jeeps, there's no room up front. The engine was already swapped, so they've already put that back as far as you can. The alternator, as you can see, would typically be right about here. We made a mount down there. It has a stretch belt set up on it. Less things go wrong. Power steering, I've swapped it to a Duramax style Hydro Boost brake system. We're using a stock LS pump. No one knows this, but a stock LS pump is the same as a Duramax pump for the steering as far as that goes. The only difference is the Duramax one has one more return line on it. I'll bring you in close here. Bring you up. It's a little windy. Sorry about that. Let's see if we can get some good lighting in here. So we're just using a stock LS pump. We're just going to weld on another return fitting to it. Right now, it just goes in the cap for temporary, get this thing up and going kind of deal. It has a Chinese style fast intake 92 mil throttle body. Like I was saying, his custom intercooler, he bought these online. TIG welded it all up. Pretty much this is the only spot we could put a turbo without hanging it way out the front. So it is what it is. Like, we made it work out. As you can see, there's no rad here. It would typically be here, but because the cooling system we wanted to have, it now has an electric water pump. And because a rad would, realistically, you need a rad yay big. We didn't want to put it here as a giant custom built stand-up Warren winch that has like 100 and something feet of cable on it that's going to sink back in here. We didn't want to put a rad here, so I'll show you in a minute where we did put it. As you can see, these giant hoses that come out, this is the rad cooling system. It has a heat exchanger behind this fender. These Jeeps are like Dodges. They have a lot of dead space hidden all over. So it has a heat exchanger for the engine oil cooler built into the rad cooler. Everything's going to run one temperature, including the transmission. It has a standalone cooler up where the rad is, which I'll show in a minute. So you might be wondering, how do you turn the steering? Typically, this pitman arm, if this is the steering box, the pitman arm would face backwards. We have it facing forward. This thing has like a circle track steering reverse mechanism in it that I made fit in there. Basically, your shaft comes in this way, spinning one way. It drops out and comes out the bottom, spinning backwards. It's a 2-gear operation, so you spin this one way. This is obviously going to turn the backwards. That's how he's able to run the steering forwards, and we're able to stretch it and keep it having a crossover manual connection for the steering to be street legal. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but yes, this is going to be street legal. It is plated. We will put mud flaps on it and all that kind of stuff that's removable, so you can drive this to the trail. This is not a trail or a trailer queen. This is something he wants to daily drive once it's done. So that being said, that's why we put sway bars on it. I'll bring you down here. You can see the sway bar disconnect right there. Like I was saying, it's a Toyota hub. So you quickly just come in here, flip it. It's disconnected, flip it, tight again. So when you disconnect it, it basically makes this arm swivel different from this arm, like free. So you can have it as if there's no sway bar, even though it's connected, which in this term is perfect. He doesn't have to get out when it's all dirty, get to the road and try to reconnect a link. Then you have to store that link somewhere. That's a pretty typical Jeep thing to do. So now I'll take you up and we'll show you where the rad is. All right, for this portion, it might be a little shaky. I have to hold the camera considering I am up on the roof. So one rad hose comes up this side, the other rad hose comes up the other side of the windshield. This rad hose comes up into this box looking thing right here. That is the tranny cooler. It's a custom made heat exchanger. The rad hose then comes out and goes into aluminum rad with a ginormous fan on top. This thing is laying down. That over there, let me just switch some hands around here. That thing right there is how you fill it. This is just like a normal overfill tank, so you can release the pressure. That is how we're getting the air out of it. This is also how you get the air out of it. You can run this thing, have that port open. Right now it just has a bolt. It's going to get a plug or a valve of some kind. This being, oh, give me 1 second here. So this might look a little odd to you. This is some stainless steel quick connects for some winemaking products. That being said, this has an O-ring in here. It's rated to like 600 Fahrenheit. Sorry about that. The camera fell a little bit. So we can loosen this while it's running. We can spin this down so it's not sticking straight up. Tighten this back up. Doesn't leak whatsoever. This is some wiring I'm working on. Don't look at that. That's for the fan. That is for the steam port. It's just a catch-all. Once the steam port pressures up, it's going to overfill this and steam out here. This is, as I said, the overflow for the rad, just like normal. This is all aluminum. Every heat exchanger we're putting in is aluminum to help with the cooling. So let me hop back down. So as I said before, this thing being all custom, now that we've stretched the front, he's decided to go balls to the wall. Pretty much no budget on this thing. He doesn't want to redo it ever again. This has a Northwest Fab triple stick, meaning it has an eco box into a Ford 205. That's why there's three. One is for the eco box, low and high, which is 241 to 1 or 247 to 1 ratio. The 205 is 196 to 1. This is two-wheel, four-wheel kind of deal here. This is the front wheel. You can put it in four-wheel like normal, or you can lock out the rear. You can put the rear in neutral. You can put the front in low or high, meaning you can get the 2-to-1 out of the, so basically you can get the EcoBox in low. You can run the T-case in high, but you can have front dig, or you can put the T-case in low or high, and then you can also do front dig / two-wheel drive. You can have low, high, low, low, or high, high, whatever you want to do. If you run both boxes in high, it's like having no gear reduction. You can run the EcoBox in low, leave the T-case in high range, so then you have that 271 to 1 ratio all the time. Which, I mean, if you're bombing around trails and two-wheel drive, that's half decent. If you're doing some complicated crawling, you can go double low. You should be able to get out, and this thing is going to drive slower than you can walk. Other than that, the interior is pretty factory. There's some stuff off right there. I'm doing some wiring in there. Let's do a little walk around. Actually, let me show you the front suspension. So the front suspension is a true 3-link with a panhard type deal. Get you right in here. Give me 1 sec. Move the camera down. As you can see, it's on trailing arms, or in this case, they're called leading arms. So to be able to stretch this and have the wheel travel, this is a 14-inch coilover the back to 18 inches. This being back, it's roughly just over 12 inches from the center line. This 14-inch coilover is acting as a 16.5-inch coilover because of the trailing arm, which then also freed up room here because the downpipe, the hydro bump, the sway bar link, there's no room for coilovers here. This tube right here that looks ridiculous is the track bar mount. Because this thing's up so high, the track bar mount had to match the pitman arm, and this is the only way we could do it. The factory track bar mount's back here, so we've moved the mount forward about 5 inches, and then on top of that, this is completely behind the center of the axle, about a good 6 to 8 inches back, because we stretched this thing so far out. This is the downpipe, as I said, so I'll pause the camera here for a sec, and I'll go underneath and show you the suspension. Okay, so now we're looking at a bunch of tubes. As you can see, it probably makes no sense at all. That's completely understandable. If I turn back here, this is the rear true dual triangulated setup. And then we turn up here, you can see the links overlap each other. So this thing, the approach angle, or like the breakover angle, would be typically right about here on this setup. This is for the bottom rear links. These pipes up here are the rear upper links. And then these pipes down here, I should be saying tubes, these are the lower trailing arms, go up to a cross member. If you can see up in there is the 205. That silver thing, I'm not sure if you can see it, is the Eco Box. This is the factory style cross member with the old 4-link setup. We're currently using that as a tranny mount, and the lower links tied to it for the rear. The upper link on the passenger side, sorry, for the 3-link mounts up way over there. Let me move the camera. You might be able to see it right there. So right up there, that's the 3-link for the passenger side. That being said, these links are untypically long. Typically 4 links are about 4 to 5 feet maximum. Let me just get my shirt off the camera there. These links are about 78 inches eye to eye. He wants to be able to rip this thing at like 100k down gravel and not feel it. That being said, that's why they are so long. If we made these the typical 5 feet long, this thing would ride like poo at 100 kilometers an hour during going down some gravel, which is why we've built them so ridiculously long. That's the upper link for the rear. Now you can see the front suspension. So as I was saying, the panhard bar is there. It goes down, goes to a custom mount over there. I'll show that in a minute. Custom drive shaft, front and rear. Over there, you can barely see it. Sorry about the sun. The lower link goes in, sway bar ties into the top of that bracket. This being a Dodge diff, it had, You can get them in disconnect or non-disconnect axle styles. This is a non-disconnect axle, meaning the passenger side tube is one shaft. There's no two-piece shaft in there. It's the strongest version you can get. And the rear, being a 60, is ginormous. They both have custom trusses that he had built a long time ago when it was on 35s. That happens to be why they're so low profile, because originally this thing had only a few inches of lift. So this is that lower link, and the panhard bar. It might look confusing, probably because it is very confusing, to be honest, especially even working on this thing. I forget where things are sometimes because there's so many things going on. This bracket over here, I'm not sure if you can see it from the angle you're at, is the upper link tower. There's a few things you need to tighten, I guess. That's still loose. This is the sway bar link. This goes down to the side of this giant bracket I built out of some 3x3 square that's 1/4 inch thick. That's all gusted up. It's welded right to the inner C. It's clearance at the bottom for the caliper. When I say the clearances on this thing are tight, they really are tight. This is the panhard bar, or in this case scenario, the track bar. It goes in. Also, I should mention, anything that's suspension is 1.25 inch heim. All the sway bar end links are 3/4 inch heims. So this has an 1.25 inch heim. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's no weld-in bung here. This is a piece of DOM that's tapped for this heim joint because of the strength he wanted. This is, I believe, 3/8 thick DOM that's tapped. The other side is also the same way. All the steering stuff has the weld-in bungs in DOM that's 1/4 inch thick. They go straight into the knuckle. Currently it's single shear. We're going to build double shear for that once it's up and driving. He just needs to get this thing on the go. It's been sitting for at least about 3 years, I think. I've been working on it for 2. This is 1/2 inch plate for the sway bar. We didn't want these to bend. Same thing, we may make this double shear, may not. Depends on how that performs. Right now, me being 2 years into this build, he's getting a little anxious to start driving this thing. It was far from it when I became into this project. That's a good shot of the alternator bracket. So we went online. We bought I believe the company is TIC. They make a lower mount for this. We've altered it heavily. We've added this idler in. This has a stock LS alternator in it for now. Giant cables. Factory fuse box. It's been altered. These hoses here are for the tranny cooler that go up on the roof. These 2 hoses are for the electric water pump to the heater core. As you can see, if I move this, this has quick connect links on it. Same thing. He owns a winery, so he introduced a bunch of stainless steel fittings from his winery, which I think are revolutionary, considering you can spin this out with your bare hand, pop this hose off if you need. Same with the other one. It has a quick disconnect. This is capped off. We're not using that port. Electric water pump flows. It's rated to be 340 gallons per minute. We're going to throw a flow meter on that and see what it is actually at. It does flow quite quickly though. Even though these are both uphill, the hose is about 12 feet long per side. And who knows how much fluid this holds. We can calculate it, but why need to do that? You can feel the stream up there when the pump is running, and it is quite quick. So it definitely does put out some power. Other than that, this is the power steering cooler. It's hidden behind this giant 3/8 thick plate. Like I was saying, he's reinforced this unibody so it can take a serious hit. The rear has a giant steel bumper on it that he built back when he first got this thing, I believe. Otherwise, this thing's built to last. It's built to go into the bush and disappear for weeks at a time. It's built to be very maintainable out on the trail. He's going to be carrying around spares of anything we see that could be a future problem. Otherwise, the thing's overbuilt to the absolute limit as far as parts go. Money spent on this thing. It's absolutely crazy. There's no doubt in my mind it's going to do everything that he wants it to do, plus more. That being said, the turbo has a giant wastegate. He's only hoping to run about 7 to 8 pounds on this LS. It already made about 400 to 500 horse. And on paper calculations, if he runs 8 pounds on this thing, he easily gets 700 at the wheel. and be reliable, which is the key in this situation. He needs to be very reliable. Everything has a manual shutoff or bypass on it. That breaker box that's up here on the firewall, you can kind of see here. Everything has breakers on it, resettable, reusable. Everything that can have a valve on it has a valve on it, whatever it may be. Everything is in AN or PTFE if it needs a lot of pressure on it, like the steering. That being said, every single line, every single hose fitting is AN, meaning if he breaks a hose, punctures a hose somewhere, he can take a very basic set of AN fittings with a razor blade, a knife of any kind, and be able to repair himself out on the trail to be able to at least get to civilization, if not proceed to go wherever he's going. Everything else, this stuff, the headlights, I'm currently in the middle of modifying the headlights to make them fit back in here, considering there's a lot of stuff in the way. He plans on running a factory grill on this. The hood clears everything. We've been very cautious with that. He wants this to look somewhat original, even though the tires stick out ridiculously far. The front end, other than the headlights being trimmed and there being a giant winch right here, which used to stick out on a bumper right here, we're now going to sink it in. It's going to look very original from afar. And the rear, as you can see, the tires stick out 3/4 of the tread. We will build some mud flaps. In BC, the law is your mud flap has to cover from your body to the outside of the tread, which would be here, not the sidewall of the tread itself. And the bottom of the mud flap, to be legal, has to be the center of the axle. So about here in height, out to here, some nice long john mud flap style, something that's removable. Ideally, we could also do that. As far as the law goes, you don't even have to cover the top of the tire. You can literally mount the mud flap here, stick it out, and that is street legal where we live. That's more than likely what he's going to be doing. Sorry about that, wasp on me. Otherwise, this thing is absolutely killer. It should be on the road within the next month or two. We're just figuring out some wiring issues, some turn signals, stuff like that that got modified along the way of removing most of the factory computers. And I think he's just going to tune the motor for the turbo, and this thing will be up on the street soon. Okay, catch you guys later. Just thought you guys might want to see something sick.